Hello and welcome to today's teacher chat. Today's teacher chat topic is responding to children's sensory preferences. Something that I want to just mention before we get started is that this teacher chat is not intended to diagnose or draw attention to any kind of specific sensory processing disorders. It's mainly just to provide some information and some suggestions about responding to sensory preferences because everybody has sensory preferences. So it's important to be able to be flexible in the classroom just to kind of meet those specific needs of the children in your class. So again, everyone has sensory preferences. As adults, we have the ability to problem solve and we can make decisions for ourselves. So we have so much say and freedom in what we eat, what we wear, and what we do. Whereas children, they don't necessarily have that option or they don't have the ability to problem solve or make those decisions for themselves. So children may not like something or they may prefer something different, but maybe not yet have the words to communicate that with us. They might not have the skills to meet their needs in a different way, so they might use challenging behavior. So something to remember is that all behavior is communication. So there's three typical reasons that children use challenging behavior, and that is to avoid or escape something or someone, to obtain something. So maybe either an object, like they have challenging behavior because they want a toy that another friend has, or maybe they're trying to obtain some attention or connection from a caregiver. And then the last reason would be to change the level of stimulation in the environment. So we kind of notice this sometimes with sensory preferences where children have challenging behavior because they're trying to change that level of stimulation because either maybe they want more sensory input or maybe they want less sensory input. So again, these are some reasons that children use challenging behavior either at home or in the classroom. So something to remember is to look for patterns. So again, most children are able to adapt to different environments. But what we want to do is address basic needs first. So if we're noticing that there is challenging behavior, we want to make sure that, they're not hangry or, they're not tired or they're not maybe feeling sick or something going on that we could, help with that first. So we want to address those basic needs. So maybe, that the hangry or that, feeling really irritable, maybe if they have a snack, then those behaviors will reduce or they'll decrease. But if we're noticing that frequent challenging behavior is happening during specific times or in specific environments, that's when we can kind of, consider adjusting to meet children's needs in the environment. So if we're noticing that the frequent challenging behavior is not due to, the child trying to obtain something from, another person or from a caregiver, they're not trying to avoid something. Um, and maybe we're noticing that it's really only happening in maybe at circle time or maybe when we go outside or maybe in a specific classroom. So again, that's when we can kind of consider the environment and see if there's something that we couldn't do to maybe change in the environment to adjust and meet the needs of the children. So sensory preferences, again, everybody has these sensory preferences and they're, we have different preferences per different senses. So the first couple examples are for the sense of touch. So sometimes you'll find that children really love to finger paint or they really like to put their hands in dirt and kind of get messy. And then there's other times where children don't like that sensation. So maybe they don't want to, finger paint or maybe they, have a tag in the back of their shirt that really bothers them. They don't like the sensation of that tag on their clothing. So they think it's itchy or they don't like the material, sometimes maybe lace or like wool. Children or adults, don't really like that or they prefer something different. So something that we can do in an instance like that to kind of meet that sensory preference or kind of adjust to help that child would be if they don't like to use their fingers to paint, maybe we can offer them a paintbrush. So if we're noticing that there's a lot of challenging behavior during finger painting, we can kind of offer them a different choice. So for another sense of taste, maybe the food is the wrong texture. For myself, I don't like tomatoes. This is something that, I really like ketchup. I like pasta sauce, but the texture of tomatoes is just something that I don't prefer. And as an adult, I'm able to choose not to eat tomatoes. And I have the words to use to tell someone, I don't like tomatoes. I would prefer that not be on my hamburger today. But as a child, maybe they don't like the texture of tomatoes, but they don't yet have the communication skills to let someone know. And so that might be why they have some challenging behavior, because they're trying to get that need met in the only way that they might know how at that moment. Another example could be that maybe the taste is either sour or spicy, or that sometimes children prefer crunchy food. So maybe the food is kind of like squishy mashed potatoes. Some children don't like mashed potatoes or peas, um, and they would prefer something crunchy. So maybe an opportunity to adjust in the classroom for this is if you do provide a snack in the classroom for the children, if you're noticing that there's a lot of challenging behavior at snack time and it's only happening when maybe there's a squishy snack offered instead of a crunchy snack, maybe think of that as an opportunity to have a different snack available for those children that maybe would prefer the crunchy food instead. So another sense would be sight. This can happen sometimes where, maybe in the classroom, sometimes the lights are too bright, or sometimes I know this happens in doctor's offices sometimes where the lights kind of give off a sound or like a low buzzing noise when the lights are really bright. And that can be distracting, or it can cause children or adults like myself to become unfocused because they're either hearing that noise or the lights are really bright. And so again, as an adult, I have the ability to manage my feelings. I'm able to kind of have that sense of self-regulation to deal with the bright lights. But children, as they're growing and developing, they might not yet have the skills to kind of calm themselves down when the lights are really bright. And so again, we might see some challenging behavior. Another sense would be sound. So sometimes when the classroom is really busy or kind of chaotic, the classroom can get really noisy or really loud. And so sometimes we might see challenging behavior because it's overwhelming, or the noise is just too much for some children. And so then we can offer maybe a way to adjust for that in the classroom is to have some quiet music playing, or maybe using a sound machine that has some calming noise from like rain or a river or something like that, to kind of have a different, more calming sense of sound in the classroom versus the loud kind of chaos. Another sense would be smell. So sometimes the scent in a room can be too strong, or maybe there's children might have certain aversions to certain smells. For me as an adult, one thing that I have an aversion to the smell of onions. And again, as an adult, I have the opportunity to say, I don't want to cook with onions, or I just wouldn't have that. I can choose, and I have the ability to pick something else. I can choose a different option. Whereas children, there might be something going on in the classroom where it could be that you have one of those wallflowers in the classroom and that has a specific scent. Maybe it's cinnamon, or there's fall scents right now, so maybe it's something like that. And maybe the child doesn't have the ability or the communication skills to let you know that maybe the smell is really bothering them, or the smell is making it so they can't focus or they can't pay attention. And there's other senses that I didn't even really realize were part of the senses. I just thought there were, the typical sight, smell, touch, taste. But there's also spatial awareness and position and balance. And so for these senses, spatial awareness, there might be those opportunities in the classroom to adjust for those children that really might enjoy tight hugs, or they like to kind of feel the physical contact or pressure. So we can offer different activities in the classroom to kind of help them with that sensory preference. So maybe they like to crash into things, or they really like to have those tight hugs. So maybe there can be a certain game that you could play in the classroom. Um, their Red Rover is one that comes to my mind, where you kind of run and kind of crash into the people that are holding arms, so that way they can't get through. So that's just one example or idea of something that might be um, children might have a preference for. And then another one is position and balance. So these children might like to rock back and forth, spin or swing or hang upside down, or just, jump from, tall heights, maybe on a playground. Or there might be the opposite, where children might be physically cautious. So maybe they don't like to do those things, or maybe they avoid those certain sensations. And so these are different sensory preferences that we can kind of notice in the classroom, and then help kind of adjust what we can do in the classroom, either by adding activities, or maybe offering different choices of activities for these children that can't exactly tell us with their words what they're feeling when they don't like something. So something to remember is just read children's cues. This is something where, if you're observing children and how they respond to those activities and those experiences throughout the day, you can kind of pay attention to those obvious or subtle clues. So, if their eyebrows kind of scrunch up together, or maybe they are really distant, or maybe, again, it could be that they're avoiding a certain activity. Maybe they kind of turn away or run away. They don't want to participate in that activity. So we can just read children's cues. We can kind of notice when they either like something or don't like something. Or maybe that, if we do offer a different option, maybe we can read those cues to see what they prefer. Another thing to remember is to acknowledge feelings. So this kind of picture over here shows that, feelings are kind of at the bottom of things. So we might see on the outside these behaviors, but really it's coming from the feelings that they have on the inside. So something that we can do is just describe, name, and acknowledge feelings. Again, children might not have the skills to communicate what is upsetting them. So they use their behavior to kind of express those feelings or express those needs. So when we acknowledge those feelings and say, I noticed that your eyebrows scrunch up when we do this specific activity. Are you feeling frustrated? Maybe you're feeling upset. And just acknowledging that, it's okay to have differences. It's okay to have certain preferences, and then maybe we can come up with different ways to adjust for that. So one thing that we can do to kind of adjust is incorporate sensory play. So this would be something that you can offer as an activity during your lesson plans or throughout the day. Sensory play can inspire curiosity and creativity. Sensory play can help children manage and express their feelings in a positive way. And sensory play is important for development. So this is something that you can add into your class that will help children, again, manage those feelings or manage their behaviors in a more positive way. So some children, really, like I said, they like to put their hands in things and kind of squish around. So having Play-Doh or moon sand is a really great option for those kiddos to kind of release that tension in their hands and play with something. That's a positive way for them to express that feeling. Another thing is just to be flexible. If possible, we can try to find ways to accommodate children's preferences, or, like I said, offer those sensory experiences. So if there is a way that you can adapt to reasonably meet their needs in the classroom, this is something that we can do that might help reduce the challenging behavior that we're seeing. So some options, maybe if you're noticing that the frequent challenging behavior is happening in, let's say, the gym or something where the lights are really bright, maybe there's an opportunity that, they could wear sunglasses inside. If that helps them and if they feel better and that reduces the challenging behavior, is it really hurting anything to kind of let them wear those sunglasses inside? Or maybe if in the classroom there is a special area, so maybe like a calm down corner or a safe place that maybe has some soft lighting. So maybe like Christmas twinkle lights or something, that the child maybe could go there to help relax or calm themselves down. Maybe if it's too noisy in the classroom, offering sound canceling headphones, or again, maybe listening to that soft music or, the rain sounds or ocean sounds. Another option would be to provide flexible seating. So sometimes we notice that a lot of frequent challenging behavior happens at circle time. And it could be that, sometimes some children really like, again, to move back and forth, or they kind of have wiggles that they seem like they just need to get their, ants out of their pants. And so sometimes we can offer flexible seating. So whether it's, having them sit on a, um, a little squishy seat, or maybe if they just bring their chair from the table over and sit at circle time, maybe having a hard seat is better for them or they prefer that. Or maybe just allowing children to stand. If maybe they can stand at the back of the circle, if everyone else is sitting, they could stand at the back to listen for circle time. And that could help them to, pay attention and focus. Another thing could be, sometimes chewing gum in a classroom, we don't really like that because maybe the child will spit it out on the floor or it can be messy or something like that. But if the child is, capable of chewing the gum and maybe that helps them to focus or, pay attention in class, maybe we can offer chewing gum. Or again, like I said before, maybe children just prefer to have a crunchy snack, so we can offer, hard carrots or a crunchy apple, something like that, that can kind of help meet that sensory preference. Another thing that can be helpful for those spatial awareness or the we can offer movement breaks throughout the day. So this could be something where throughout the day you could do jumping jacks, or maybe the child can push the wall. Doing like push-ups but against the wall can kind of get some of that tension out. Or just offering opportunities to have like dance parties in the classroom. Doing freeze dance can be another opportunity to kind of have those movement breaks, or sometimes we call them brain breaks. And so again, just being flexible and offering different opportunities to kind of accommodate children's preferences, or again, offer those sensory experiences. Again, something to remember is just research sensory preferences or ways to meet sensory needs. If you're noticing that maybe there is frequent challenging behavior happening at certain times of day or in specific environments, then maybe you can kind of look up some different options or different ideas that could help to meet that sensory need in the classroom. And also, parents are the experts of their children. So, if parents are thinking that maybe there is something going on that, the sensory preferences might be getting in the way of their daily functioning in life, that might be an opportunity for the parents to talk to their pediatrician. So, this is something where, if you're really noticing that there's a lot of frequent challenging behavior happening at a specific time of day or during in a specific environment, maybe just talking to the parents and finding out if this is similar at home as well. Maybe in a specific environment at home or during a specific time of day, they're noticing the same kind of challenging behaviors. And that would be an opportunity where, again, the parent, as the expert of their children, they can kind of take that next step, either to continue to research on their own or to talk to a pediatrician if they do have concerns. So lastly, this is my resource page. If you do have any questions, feel free to email me at rihannar@crcwoodcounty.org. I did get some of the strategies from Devereaux Center for Resilient Children and the Center on the Social and Emotional Foundations for Early Learning. And some of the sensory preference ideas or ways to accommodate for children's sensory preferences come from these two blogs, understood.org and yourkidstable.com. And lastly, please like us on Facebook at CRC Infant and Early Childhood Connection. Thank you.